This is going to be a plastic render demo, and I'm starting out with a sketch, a rather loose sketch that I'm going to turn into a plastic render. First I start out with a gradation, and I usually put a little bit of black in the gradation, and then I put some shadow. I paint a little shadow. Usually I have 3 levels of shadow, all done on multiply, so that the first one is a rather wide shadow, then a mid shadow, and then a very tight shadow. And the tightest shadow, of course, is darker. So what I did is I pathed out the different colors. I'm going to want this section here to be blue, and so I pathed that out. This one here to be red, yellow, and then the inside of these lights, and I corrected the sketch so that the perspective was correct, and then the inside, and so on. Okay, so what I did to save time for this is I went ahead and I filled the red, filled the blue, the yellow inside, so everything is filled, and those are my base colors. So I start out with base colors. Now, in order to be able to see what I'm doing, I put them all in a folder and I bring down the opacity so that I can see the lines underneath. Okay, and so I'm going to start out with the shadow for blue. So I go ahead and I select blue, and I change my blending to multiply, call it shadow, B for blue. Okay, and I have already put in my color swatches my palette for what I'm using, and so I go ahead and I click on the blue. And my brush, let's talk about brushes for a little bit. I like to have it set at transfer and pen pressure, and the opacity when I'm doing something like this about 50%. We'll start with that. Command H to hide the marching ants, and I'll start painting where I see the shape or shadow. The nice thing about pen pressure is that you can go as hard or light as you want and it'll react if you have the pressure sensitive tablet. Okay, so let's take a look and see how that's looking. Okay, it's not bad. We can clean it up a little bit though. Okay, so that is our shadow. And then there above, we'll call this highlight, and we set the mode to screen. Go ahead and take a reading of the blue. It's still selected, and then you go into areas where you feel it needs highlight. If you need to see underneath to see where you think highlight would go ahead and do that. Again, this is at a 50% opacity, so it's not at full opacity. You'll start to see it take shape, and especially if you have it right next to the darker shadow, it's really going to start looking like it's taking some shape. Okay, now you've got that done. There's another layer that I call specular, And that can be either screen or normal, depending on what color you're working on. And that should be white. Another thing, bring the opacity down on your brush at about maybe 20-25. Okay, choose an area where you feel that the light would hit the strongest. And just sort of go back and forth. There. Wherever you feel that the light would have a more direct hit. The thing about plastic is that it has very strong, very concentrated highlights if it's shiny plastic. Okay. And that is how you render plastic. Now, just to save time, I did some other ones here. And also some glows. Take away my sketch, and there is your plastic render.